Tonight, shovels are in the ground for a new building for the St. Francis Cree bilingual school in Saskatoon.
She does all the time.
Also, we introduce you to a Saskatoon couple who is using radical honesty as a starting point for change after losing nearly everything to drugs. Plus, as potentially severe thunderstorms brew over the province, we look at the damage that a serious rain and hailstorm brought to some parts of Saskatchewan over the weekend.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, June 26th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. A man charged with the attempted murder of 2 people over the weekend made his first court appearance in Regina this morning. He's accused of a horrific attack carried out from behind the wheel of his vehicle. Alexander Kwan has the story and a warning. Some of the details are disturbing.
A 54-year-old man is in custody after a failed attempt to flee from police. They arrested him for the alleged attempted murders of 2 people over the weekend. The incident occurred right here at this intersection of St. John Street and Victoria Avenue. Police say they were called to the area early on Saturday morning where they found a woman suffering from stab wounds. Officers were able to locate the suspect in a nearby truck. When they approached the vehicle, the man put it in reverse, backing up at a high rate of speed and running over the woman. Despite being ordered to stop and exit the vehicle, the man did not. He's then alleged to have accelerated forward toward the victim and the officers. Police say they then attempted to stop the driver by firing their sidearms. It's not clear how many times they fired, but the vehicle did not stop, running over the woman a second time and nearly hitting a bystander as it left the area. Officers would follow the vehicle and eventually arrest a man a short time later in a rural area northeast of Regina. An ambulance transported the woman to hospital for treatment. Her condition isn't clear at this time. On Monday, Tony Hudson made his first appearance by phone at Provincial Court in Regina. Hudson had very little to say during the brief call. He has not secured a lawyer, and legal aid will be assisting him. Hudson is charged with 2 counts of attempted murder, one for the woman and another for a pedestrian he nearly hit. Then there are also charges for fleeing from police, dangerous operation of a vehicle, and failure to stop after an accident that results in bodily harm. Regina police say the firing of the police officers' weapons as well as the pursuit of the vehicle will be reviewed by the service, and the province's police watchdog will monitor those reviews. The Crown has opposed the release of the 54-year-old on bail. Hudson is expected to make his next court appearance later this week. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
The Saskatchewan government says it recently fired 3 employees in the Ministry of Immigration after learning that they had inappropriately accessed files of ministry clients. This is just the latest news about a ministry that's come under fire for privacy breaches. One of those breaches led to concerns about a possible illegal immigration scheme. The CBC's Jeff Leo's been looking into this, and he joins us now. Jeff, what can you tell us about this alleged immigration scheme?
Yeah, so basically what we know about it comes from the commissioner, the privacy commissioner's report. And he says that the ministry discovered that someone, an employee of the ministry, had been inappropriately accessing files. So basically looking at the files of immigration clients that they weren't authorized to be looking at and then taking information from them. So a range of information was taken from just personal identifiers to financial information, employment information, passport information. So pretty serious stuff. And then the ministry found out that this employee was sharing that information with someone outside of the ministry, a third party. And furthermore, the ministry found that that third party was then contacting these immigration clients and saying, we can help you get your immigration application approved in exchange for some cash. So this obviously alarmed the ministry. It's why this is a suspected illegal immigration scheme. That employee has since resigned, has not been identified, and the ministry has reported this to the Canada Border Services Agency, which is now investigating, as is the Ministry of Justice.
What do we know about these more recent breaches?
Well, so First of all, the reason we know about them is because of that first case. The ministry put in place new monitoring provisions to ensure this sort of thing wasn't happening. And what they found was an additional 3 employees who had inappropriately looked at client files. And so those 3 people were fired by the ministry. This whole matter was reported to the Ministry of Justice. The ministry says it takes these situations very seriously and is committed to tightening up the rules in the future to make sure this sort of thing doesn't happen.
Thanks for this, Jeff.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Jeff Leo in Regina tonight. Construction is getting underway on the new building for Saskatoon's St. Francis Cree bilingual school. To begin, a Cree teacher invited elders, architects, and construction supervisors to offer tobacco to the land. The teacher sang a prayer song to honor Mother Earth's sacrifice of the land. The new building will replace 2 temporary locations that were being used by St. Francis to meet growing demand. The new school will feature 3 stories with a greenhouse, elders' teaching room, and medicines lab. It's expected to hold pre-kindergarten to grade 9 students.
This will have around 700 plus students learning their culture, their language, their identity. We've always got to talk about putting that in the forefront, but also recognizing the past. So with that, I congratulate everybody. Today is a special day. It's a historic day.
The government is spending $45.9 million on the project. The new school will be located on 7th Street East and is expected to be complete by fall of 2025. The Transportation Safety Board is investigating a train derailment that happened yesterday south of Purdue. 23 CN rail cars derailed, but there were no dangerous goods involved, no leaks, no fires, no injuries reported. That's according to a statement from CN Rail. 2 TSB investigators have been sent to the site to gather information. The derailment happened near the small community of Lenny, about 65 kilometers west of Saskatoon. A Saskatoon couple who lost nearly everything to drugs is using radical honesty as a starting point for change. They're building a community for people seeking a better way to live. Bonnie Allen has their story.
Yeah, they were playing outside.
Oh, good.
For the end of the day. Was that phys ed or just extra outside time?
Dan Hearn and Donna Gilchrist live with their 2 children in Saskatoon. Just a few meters away from their dining room table, they've set up a sophisticated audio studio where they host a podcast about addiction and recovery.
I'm Daniel Unmanageable, and this is Hard Knocks Talks coming at you from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
They live stream on Facebook to thousands of people every week, and millions more have clicked on their online content. They draw on their own experience being consumed by drug addictions.
It's so important to spread hope and connection.
I truthfully, I am not embarrassed of my story.
Dan and Donna both grew up in middle-class families, but always felt like they didn't fit in.
I was trying to escape. I was just trying to get away from myself. I didn't like who I was.
In 2008, they met and fell in love. He was a welder, she was a legal assistant. They both used drugs casually at first.
It was fun for a little while there, but yeah, it definitely got dark.
Soon, their drug use, from fentanyl to crystal meth, took over their entire lives. They lost their jobs, their house was in foreclosure, and their 3-year-old son went to live with his grandparents.
I remember collapsing to the floor crying like he died. And that sense of loss was like he had died.
Donna left for a life on the streets.
I was so angry. I was so mad. With Donna leaving, I felt so wronged. And part of it was like, I'm going to get sober first.
Dan went to detox and treatment and was reunited with their son. Donna lived on the streets. She was pulled into an abusive relationship with a man connected to gangs.
So I was scared, I was hopeless, I was lost, and he introduced me to needles. So I started using intravenously.
Community agencies offered help, and eventually she learned to live drug-free. After 6 years apart, the couple reunited. They co-host Hard Knocks Talks and interview other people in recovery.
The most important step of recovery is asking someone else for help, period.
A community has come up around them, beautiful community, and not filled with perfect people, filled with people seeking a better way to live.
Like, no matter how bad the situation and how deep that hole is that you're in, there is a way out.
Here, put those on there.
Dan and Donna are living proof of one of the podcast's taglines. There are no lost causes. Recovery is real. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Saskatoon.
You can certainly tell the last week of school is upon us. All the fun places to beat the heat, like spray parks and pools, have been full of youngsters excited to be on field trips and even more stoked about their coming summer break. And it is going to be a warm one this week leading up to the Canada Day long weekend. Ethan will have your forecast after the break. Stay with us. A traveling art exhibit that's been around the world is now moving around Saskatoon. It's popping up in different places all week, and it's something you can punch or squeeze. So our reporter Ashwarya Duda went to check out the Red Ball project.
What is the most fun thing about this?
This is one of the most fun things about this.
What do you like to see when you see people interacting? How does that make you feel?
I mean, for me, one of the things that's fun about the project is it's an invitation. Right. So it's not a prescription, doesn't tell people what to do, it just invites them in.
How did the idea come through?
I'm a sculptor, and I was really interested in working in public space and exploring a city and playing with it as opposed to trying to build it. And so the idea came through that.
Right, it's definitely very different from sculptures that you can't do anything with and you're usually just sitting.
Right. And it changes and it moves and it's lightweight. And
Was it challenging for you to go straight from your usual?
No, it's been really great to get out of a gallery scene and be on the street with people. It's been great.
And what kind of response have you gotten from across the world?
Actually the responses, they always fall in a bunch of buckets, but what's interesting is each culture is a little different. And so I never know how it's going to go until you start. So there's going to be something specifically Canadian about whatever happens this week that would be different if we were in Australia or if we were in England or whatever.
If you had to compare Paris and Calgary?
Calgary, easier to work with. And Paris, busy and hot.
And Saskatoon?
And Saskatoon. I mean, we just launched, so I have to see. We're going to see where we go. I'm looking forward to Canada Day, and we'll see. People are, I think, warming up to us now on the second day.
Okay. This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. Used car savings is on now.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. Yesterday got pretty stormy in some parts of our province.
Yeah, and we really weren't expecting things to get too severe, but by mid-afternoon, we saw those storms starting to pop up, and that resulted in a lot of hail. Now, this was Prince Albert yesterday afternoon. This is actually one of a couple of different storms that ended up hitting the city. And the hail in town was anywhere from pea to loony sized, according to Environment Canada. But there were reports bigger than that outside of the city, somewhere between loony and golf ball sized. And it really piled up, as you can see here, almost looking like mounds of snow in yards and on decks. We've also seen pictures on social media of some crops and farm fields being wiped out as well, unfortunately. But it wasn't just the hail that was a problem.
Jesus.
Yeah, it poured on the city too in just the span of an hour. Environment Canada reporting just over 20 millimeters in town. Some volunteer reports said there were around about 33 millimeters by the time the storms were totally over. Many roads and backyards were flooded out as a result. Thankfully, it doesn't sound like there was too much damage, but I imagine that some basements definitely got some water. And as I mentioned, with that storm, we saw about just over 20 millimeters, and that was actually about half of the rain that we've seen in the entire month of June in Prince Albert. We've had just over 41 millimeters so far this month, but we actually get on average about 69 millimeters in Prince Albert in the month of June. It's the second rainiest month in the city, so we're only still at about 60% of our average June moisture in Prince Albert. Still a few days to go, though. And this is the crops that I was talking about that were wiped out by hail. This is from Four Sons Ag Solutions near North Battleford. This is the canola crop before, and this is what happened to it after. Around loony-sized hail, unfortunately, falling. About 23 quarters of canola crop being wiped out there, and an additional 4 quarters of wheat. So not good for the crops, and we're still seeing storms this afternoon. Quite a complex of storms in southeastern Saskatchewan around Weyburn-Estevan, but we do have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for the RMs of Orkney, Wallace, and Canna, and that includes both the cities of Melville and Yorkton. Melville, I think the storms have passed you by now, but again, they're moving into the Yorkton area, up to nickel-sized hail here, and also some storms in the Lanigan and Nokomis areas just east of Watrous, moving toward Wynyard. Same threats, and these storms moving very slowly, only about 5 to 10 kilometers an hour, so heavy rain and flash flooding. Likely a concern with these. We also have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for the La Loche, Buffalo Narrows, Isla Crosse areas in northern Saskatchewan. Some non-severe cells firing up in that area, but some severe storms on the Alberta side of the border that we'll be watching tonight. Storms and showers still possible in the south and central parts of the province overnight. Through the overnight hours, it's likely that those storms are going to congeal into kind of one larger system of rain through northern Saskatchewan as this next area of low pressure moves through. Tomorrow afternoon, that area of low pressure could once again strike up some severe thunderstorms along the Manitoba border. That's where the highest threat is likely going to be. But then Wednesday, things clearing out, warming up once again as we see high pressure move through. And we're generally looking at a swath of about 5 to 15 millimeters, especially in the Churchill region of the province. But portions of the far north could get that as well. For southern Saskatchewan, rainfall amounts, of course, going to be very dependent on just where those thunderstorms end up. For Regina, over these next few days, things will definitely get warm. Keep in mind these temperatures going to feel warmer with humidex values, probably close to 30 degrees, but things will be sunny as high pressure moves out and will be just above average for this time of year. Next best chance for storms, I think, will come Sunday, Monday, as temperatures will get into the low 30s and humidex values potentially getting a little bit higher than that. Saskatoon will be closer to 30 degrees really over these next few days here, with those overnight lows will be into the mid-teens. Again, things staying mostly clear. I think the thunderstorm threat largely out of the way here, getting close to heat warning criteria here for Saskatoon, especially northern Saskatchewan. Sam, looks like we could get close over these next few days.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
Wowee.
A kayaker near Australia's famed Bondi Beach was treated to a rare sight recently. Drone footage captured this weekend shows the paddler with one of the Earth's largest mammals, a humpback whale. The curious creature cruised alongside the kayak in a playful swim through the pristine blue Australian waters near Sydney. The whale is one of 50,000 expected in a migration known as the Humpback Highway from Antarctica. We'll be back after the break. A CBC investigation has uncovered a little-known discrepancy in the application of Canadian law when it comes to historical sexual assaults. For years, men in positions of power who abused boys have faced charges such as indecent assault and gross indecency. But some lawyers say men who abused girls were and remain less likely to face those same charges. As Felice Chin reports, the difference is especially stark in a case involving a teacher who taught at 7 different schools in the Greater Toronto area.
Leslie McMillan still remembers the night she dragged her grade 11 friend out of their music teacher's hotel room. It was 1987, and the girls were on a school band trip in Montreal.
I walk in the room, and there she's lying on his bed, like on her back, like totally passed out, pants undone.
It took decades for that girl, Allie, now 53, to report what she believes was sexual exploitation and sexual assault. In November, she went to York Regional Police. A detective interviewed her.
He called me the very next day and followed up with an email saying that he'd spoken to the Crown attorney, who said there were no charges that applied in my case. And so
CBC has agreed to withhold her last name as she continues to pursue justice. But our investigation has found that 3 women have independently gone to police to file complaints against William Douglas Walker. Jeannie McKay went to police in 1999, then Anne-Marie Robinson, 2017.
And yet there's been no real investigation.
A suspect can only be charged with what was in the criminal code at the time of the alleged offense. And sexual exploitation, a charge commonly used against teachers and others in positions of power, didn't become law until 1988.
The inconsistency between...
Blair Crew has for years provided independent legal advice to survivors of sexual assault. He says police could have pursued other charges that were in the law books at the time, specifically gross indecency.
People that were boy victims do make out better in the process than women survivors do. Looking back in the laws in the 1980s, the laws were still very, very homophobic in their orientation.
Our investigation has now linked Walker to 15 women who claimed he propositioned, groomed, or sexually assaulted them when they were teens. To date, Walker has never been convicted of any crime. He maintains the sexual contact he had with students were all consensual. Felice Chin, CBC News, Ottawa.
For more on this story, check out CBC's latest investigative podcast, The Banned Teacher, available for download on the CBC Listen app or wherever you find your podcasts. And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
And we'll be starting sunny tomorrow in Regina and southern Saskatchewan, 19 degrees with just some nice light southwest winds. Getting to the afternoon, sunshine sticking around. There is a chance we could see some storms, likely non-severe into the afternoon. Humidex, though, making that feel like 30 degrees. Saskatoon, just a little bit more cloud cover for you at 18 degrees tomorrow morning. And again, similar chance of some non-severe storms tomorrow afternoon, getting close to feeling like 30 with the Humidex. Quick check on our severe thunderstorms in effect for the RMs of Orkney, Wallace, and Canna, as well as the Lanigan and Nokomis areas. Nickel-sized hail, heavy rain on these slow-moving storms, and now a storm in the Peter Pond Lake area producing some large hail and strong wind as well, Sam. So lots to keep our eye on tonight.
All right. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we leave you tonight, the Saskatoon Valkyries are celebrating their 3rd straight league title at the Western Women's Canadian Football League Championship. On Saturday afternoon at Griffith Stadium in Saskatoon, the Valkyries beat the visiting Calgary Rage 40-0. The championship is the 8th overall for the squad. The head coach says the win is an exciting moment of encouragement for the team, especially for young and new players, as more than half of the roster has joined in the last 2 years. Veteran defensive back Kelsey Murphy's been with the Valkyries for 9 years. Saturday's game was her 5th championship win.
If you're going to come out and try a sport, the coaching staff, all of the players, they're going to be so welcoming to you. And yeah, just get out there. You're going to mess it up because it's a sport with so many rules, so many, there's so much going on. So you're going to mess up, but it's going to be fun and just try it. Yeah, it's a sport for everybody. It's not just for guys.
That's Murphy's message to athletes considering playing football. She says it's all about getting out there and having fun. Valkyries went 4-0 during the regular season and won twice in the playoffs, including a 19-9 win over the Regina Riot last week. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Ethan and I will be back with more local news and weather tonight at 11. Thank you for watching and have a great night.